Guys, a couple of weeks ago, and maybe you've seen it in the chat quite a few times, I'd seen this structure take place on the Euro USD. This is going back a couple of months now, so it's going back to about the 20th of March. And the structure which I found interesting was that the price had fallen, gone into consolidation, broke down, pulled back, and so support became resistance, and then the price broke through. Ever since I've seen this structure, I've been wondering, is it a pattern, isn't it? And I've kept this picture in my possible patterns folder, and just kind of been looking to see if it's ever going to repeat, right? So had a couple of false alerts. You'll remember a couple of weeks ago on Aussie, I thought that maybe this pattern was playing out, and at that time one of the things which I decided to do, and I remember mentioning in the chat, is that, look, you know, if this pattern is going to play out, it's probably better to let that break rather than to anticipate it, and the better trade is probably going to be on the pullback. So it'll pull back to the mid pivot support resistance line, it'll pull back to the wall, and then the wall should be acting as support again, and then we can be looking for a long continuation. So much to my surprise, just flicking through the charts after dinner and looking at cable, and it looks as though it's happening, right? So this is on a 5-minute chart. We had the fall and the price broke through, so that's support, it's resistance, and she's kind of doing a similar thing to what we saw in Euro, right? So she's demonstrating a little bit of oomph, that she wants to break away from that line, which is always good to see a little bit of momentum there. And so I'm rather suspecting that if we get that pullback to the mid pivot, then that's going to make a good area for a long trade. Right now, on Euro USD, what happened was that we got that pullback quite late in the New York session, right? And timing-wise, it's quite interesting because it's playing out in quite a similar fashion, right? But we got that pullback toward the end of New York, and then at the beginning of the following day, the price was able to break up from that line, right? So it's the first time I'm playing this, right? And it's the first time I've seen it like this. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be a huge investor. I think it'll be worth giving it maybe 20 pips or something, and maybe if that 20 pips is worth 30 or 40 quid, it's not going to cost the earth. In order to give that an attempt and try it, right? So is it a pattern, isn't it? I don't know, but I suppose we'll find out by the morning when we get a pullback to that mid pivot. As long as the price is holding above there, even if she's slightly breaching it, but as long as generally she's holding above that level, I'd be quite happy with looking for a long trade there. Certainly you wouldn't want to see her back under 58.40 area, right? So so if she's holding in 58, and it looks as though it's going to be around the 870, 880 area when she comes and strikes. But if the level holds it, I think that's going to make a good long trade. So so keep an eye on that. It may kick in, it may not, but if she pulls back to that area, I think it's going to be a level of interest. Okay, just now turning towards the yens. All right, so GBP JPY, if we're looking at GBP JPY, she's breaking to the top of her opening range, and this will be really interesting to see this break above 28. I wouldn't suspect for the turn to happen all in one go, right? So there's a 15-minute chart. You can see what's happening here, right? We're getting a retest of a broken trend line. To my count, it could be the second or the third retest. I'm not quite sure yet, but we're getting quite a significant bounce here, right? And you're able to see that on GBP JPY. First time she bounced to the tune of 75 pips, and again here she's bounced to the tune of about 70 pips. And if you're looking at Euro JPY, similar situation on Euro JPY. I've got a long position on Euro JPY, and the first time I played it this morning, it gave me about 60 pips, and playing it again now, and it's giving to the tune of about 90 pips, right? So but I think that she's gonna wind out somewhere around these 105.70s. I'm cautious about this, and it is only a small position. It's not a huge position. It was played as a counter trend bounce off of the line, right? So so this is something that was posted overnight in the chat, but I'm expecting her to peter out around this consolidation area here, and if she's able to break through that, I might sit up and get a little bit more excited, right? But on the whole, she's doing all right now. If we're looking at USD JPY is a little bit in the doldrums, right? And this is what I was finding a little bit surprising. We've got GBP JPY breaking, you've got Euro JPY breaking, and USD JPY is still at the bottom of its opening range. It made a fresh low a few hours ago, and now it's just holding above that level. So I'm really kind of thinking that I think that USD JPY will follow suit, and we need to watch these yen crosses together. I don't think that those moves on GBP JPY or Euro JPY are about the pound and about the euro. Sometimes you find a few of the crosses move off, but one of these crosses moves really late, right? So either GBP JPY or Euro yen have to come down considerably, or USD JPY has to rise, and so I'm just monitoring the action between these crosses. It may be worth putting some of the other yen crosses into the mix. I know some of you look at the Kiwi yen and Aussie yen and those pairs as well, although they tend to have generally a slightly different dynamic. But I think it's going to be worth watching, and I'll be watching USD JPY probably through to the Asian about once an hour or something. And if I see any kind of a momentum break on USD JPY, I think I'd take it quite happily. Even I'm actually thinking about going spec long with stops just below the double zeros, and making an attempt from here, right? So I think this USD JPY is worth keeping an eye on. If you see the hourly breaking, you've got the hourly entry technique, right? So so that should allow you to place your trade. I would be looking for a lot more rounding on these yen crosses. I think we're still going to get a lot more up, down, up, down, up, down. But eventually she has to make that significant low, and she has to make a high, and then she has to make a higher low, and then we know that we're back on track for a move north, right? So we're still trying to preempt things here. Really liking that move on Euro yen. And you can see the follow through that you're getting on GBP JPY. So really start paying attention to this pair, right? If she's gonna start breaking, we want to be in there, just building small positions, and as she goes our way, there's a lot of room to the top side, and so as she goes our ways, we can look to scale out of those positions, and she dips, and we get back in those positions, and really try and maximize any kind of move that might come, right? So like I said, it's still a little bit preemptive. We haven't had the structure change on it, but comparing the markets, it does look quite interesting. In fact, just looking at this, you might even be able to mark that. Okay, this is tricky. Let me change charts. There we go. You might even be able to mark a SR flip wall or something. All right, so this is going to mark a wall using support or resistance. Here we're on the 5-minute time frame. All right, and once the price breaks the other side of that, either you wait for a pullback to get in long, or you jump in you jump in as she's breaking, trying to catch a preemptive move, right? In fact, while I'm on this chart, I'm going to show you another interesting level. This USD JPY seems to be channeling down, right? And so what I've done is I've copied the top of the channel to the bottom of the channel, top of the channel, so the upper wall, which is here. I just copied that to the low, and then I've adjusted it slightly on my hourly chart, but it does look like that is where support kicks in, right? So if she wants to make an attempt at 80.20, which is where it looks like it would be on the current candle, she may just do that. But I would suspect support around these areas. You can see all the different levels I've got marked off. We've got a support wall here connecting high and low, and on the 5 minute we're just marking resistance and looking for any sign that she wants to break through that resistance. Resistance is no longer going to hold, and then we can start looking for resistance to turn to support. Has there been any dollar news in the last hour? I don't know. I don't know. I think most of the calendar, as far as the kind of calendar announcements were concerned, I think the last stuff on the calendar announcement was around about 3 o'clock our time here in the UK. If there's been any news since then, I don't know, right? But I mean, all the entries that were in there have all been technical, right? We've just been playing the technical levels. We were looking for moves off the support wall GBP AUD, and she's caught those moves. And I've mentioned before, as long as she stays above that wall, we'll remain technical long. Anytime she comes back to it, since last week, I'm sure I've banked well above 100, 120 pips. So very comfortable now with trading this wall. And as long as the wall holds, I'll keep my long positions. I've mentioned before we're looking for the daily to change on this, then we can give it chase. But it was a technical entry. Euro AUD again, a technical entry is just the third tap on the supporting trend line, right? So you pretty much guaranteed a bounce round about those levels in any case. And again, the first time she came near that line, she bounced almost like 50-60 pips, and so when she pulled back, it was quite an easy position to get into, and as well added to that position as well. Euro yen, again, it was a technical entry. We had this chart marked pretty much forever. I think I've been showing you these particular lines for probably more than a couple of weeks now, and again, it was posted last night. So we were just looking for a retest. The fact that she's bouncing so high is, like I said, I'm suspecting her to wind out a little bit here, but we'll see how she plays, right? And again, any kind of pullback to those levels, and it'll give us nice clean entries and just kind of go again. So I don't know what impact the news has been having, but all of those entries were technical. The only one which is disturbing me a little bit at the moment is Kiwi, right? So she seems to be wanting to pull back above the her daily opening range, but I'm watching this on the daily now, right? And I scaled out of the positions and kind of already banked what I needed to bank. So it's kind of play now, but I'm holding my stops above the last daily high, and if she falls and she keeps making new lows, and I suspect she will, I'm really looking for her to break to the downside. Then we'll just keep on selling, right? And my stops are coming in around the 82.60 area, but if we get another break up into those 83s, that's where I would be looking to be selling again, right? So for a full position, so that's my hot zone in between the two lines. That's where I would look to be selling, right? Otherwise, I've added small positions it's just kind of play, but looking to see if she'll break further to the downside. We need some kind of hooking structure to take place. Once we've got a hooking structure to take place, we know that resistance has been established, and then we have a real a guideline or a market. It's a level that you take as a marker, right, and say, okay, you know, she's hooked at that level, there's a resistance there, so I know I'm kind of safe holding that trade below that level. It hasn't really happened yet properly, right, so I'm just waiting for that to happen, and until that happens, I'll use the last daily high in order to determine my stop placement. But when that does happen, then it would be worth adding again, looking for some full-on position size, right? Although Oanda is not the best account to be selling Kiwi on, right? Yeah, I think you guys know that already. They'll be deducting swaps on an hourly basis, so if it's going to be any kind of significant position size, unless you get your timing just right, you know, sometimes that can start hurting for a few days. But they've all been technical entries. We haven't taken anything on the back of news, just following the last bit of volatility which we could see on screen. Okay, fellas, that's it. Just wanted to fill you in on keep your eye on GBP USD in particular, right? I think this pattern is going to play, right? Well, this is not confirmed pattern yet, but I'm hoping it will be. I think it's going to play, and keep your eyes on that USD JPY. It does look like a turn is overdue on that, and the closer she gets to that 80 level, we've got some trend lines down there, and we've got the bottom of our channel acting as support. So if the price is anywhere around that level, it'll be worth putting in a few small positions, and then as she starts moving our way, we can start adding in due course. Okay, guys, like I said, that's all the material I wanted to cover. In fact, I'll just cover one more quick note, which is that a lot of the trades that we've done in previous months, they've been focused on intraday moves. So just looking for those quick sharp blasts. And a lot of these trades that we're looking at the moment, particularly on the yen crosses and on that Euro AED and GBP AED, you know, there's potentially a position play coming here. So we're going to see this picture develop over the course of a few days and a few weeks possibly, right? And you know, if it wants to happen the way that we're envisioning that it would happen, just be aware it's a slightly different style. You have to be a bit more casual about it, right? And particularly when you're trying to build a position, you have to be very, very casual. You're not going to be as aggressive as you would with your kind of intraday plays. All right, this GBP USD, if it works off, right, that is an intraday play, right? But the yens and on those Aussie crosses, we're looking for something slightly different, and so we want to see that picture develop over time. You know, we've got our levels, and as long as those levels are holding, we'll maintain a bias looking for a longer term swing. That's the plan with those. All right, fellas, thanks for attending, and I'll catch up with you later on this evening. I will be around for the Asian for maybe an hour or so around about that time. I think this is going to be quite an important week for swings. Almost saw it coming last week, but so I'll be around for the Asian. I just want to see how the Asian kicks off, which is going to be around sometime between probably 12:30 and 1:30. I'll be around AM. So I'll catch up with you then in the chat. Cheers.